Welcome to Conspiracy Playtime Podcast.
Some people actually believe that the world is run by shape-shifting alien reptiles.
No fucking way.
I think just the whole podcast is rated R.
Will there be titty?
What the fuck is a conspiracy theory?
When two separate events occur simultaneously pertaining to the same object of inquiry, you must always pay strict attention.
The only Jewish conspiracy there is that I'm circumcised.
And there's this guy from the CIA and he's creeping around Laurel Canyon.
So anyone at any given time could be infected, don't even know it, and feel perfectly well. That's really the nature of science.
Come on, man. That's like saying you, before you got in this program, you take a test where you're taking cocaine or not. What do you think, huh?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I'm not a smart man, but I know what love is.
We need to get the fuck out of here!
Fixing that testing regime, we need to have that in place before we move to that next phase.
I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
I strongly believe that. I do.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
The FBI killed Martin Luther King.
And it's fucking making sense to me now.
How many vaccines have you had? Have you been a good little Nazi? Hail Gusty! Hail Gusty!
If our own government was responsible for the deaths of almost 100,000 people, would you really want to know?
Yeah.
Roll up your sleeves, take your shot, wear your mask, and please stay safe out there.
Hello, conspiracy players, and welcome to another episode of Conspiracy Playtime. Today we have returning guest, one of my favorite interviews to date, John Gusty, and I think we mainly focused on anarchy, the power of saying no, and then we kind of just tossed around a few ideas and a few topics and just shot the shit for the last hour. But today we're going to kind of dive into the music industry a little bit more. And I also have Ryan Dean from Dangerous World Podcast, the news show called Cunt, and I'll let him explain that, and also Monday Night Master Debaters, and he's all over the place. So Ryan, before we let John hop in, you want to just tell everybody where we can find you and what you do?
Yeah, man, thank you for the intro there. Yeah, the Conspiracy Underground News Team is a fun show. Me and my friend Ghost, we just run through different news topics, usually play a lot of videos, kind of like the show No Agenda. And we didn't really intend to make it like that. It just kind of evolved into that sort of thing. And then Monday Night Master Debaters is my good buddy Matt from the Great Deceptions show. And he does a good job with that. I just, kind of tagging along on that journey that he's been taking with that. But he kills it over there, man. A lot of old world stuff that he does, which is fascinating. When you look at like old history like that and you just try and like kind of equate what's going on. And I mean, there's so many similarities, man. And it's just a fun thing to look into. But my main thing, dude, is just looking into all kinds of weird stuff. I'll even get into cryptids. I'm not a big believer in cryptids, but I'll dabble, there's so much to talk about, man. So it's fun to meet new people and talk about weird stuff.
Yes. And I would recommend all of his shows, so go check them out. We'll have all those links in the show note. And now
Thanks,
the man
man.
of the hour, you betcha. John Gusty, I think that the best thing to do would just give a recap of you and who you are and what you're about, and then we can jump into some co-opted music industry stuff.
I don't know about this whole man of the hour thing. Well, but thank you for your kindness, Ed. Yeah, our last conversation I thought was epic. One of the better ones I've taken part in as well. So, again, thanks for the kind words. At the last fourth quarter of 2019, just real quick, lifetime in the music industry. We went over that a bunch of that last time. I think I've done everything there is to do in the music industry, both from the stage and from behind the curtain. I met my wife in the music industry. My wife, at the time that I met her, she was walking with a cane and was diagnosed with having multiple sclerosis. I had been a fairly healthy person up to that point, but she became a girl, and I kind of appointed myself general contractor of her health and wellness, because as I started going to appointments with her, I realized that I don't know, I think a lot of people think that the medical industrial complex has got your best interest in mind, and obviously that was a grand illusion, and I just saw a lot of parallels. I knew the entertainment industry back and forth, but I saw a lot of parallels in the medical industrial complex. A lot of deception, a lot of scripted narratives, a lot of inversion, telling you one thing when the truth is the other. There's just a lot of weird symbolism, the rod of Asclepius and the caduceus rod. There was anything you could say about the dark side of the entertainment industry, you can also say about the dark side of the medical industrial complex. And so that got me. That got me involved in some projects, one of which was a book that I started writing with my wife's doctor at the end of 2019 called The Red Pill Revolution. At the time, again, I will stress it was the fourth quarter of 2019, and Event 201 had just come out on YouTube, and we were already paying attention to stuff like that, just kind of on the side as a hobby. And the project that book was to take people who are in, like ourselves, who are in various stages of becoming aware of things, sometimes for the first time, and putting together a bit of a field guide that wasn't sassy or finger pointing or declarative. We've got the truth, right? It was just we're just ordinary individuals who started to notice things and became aware of things and started digging and looking into things, and you could take any topic, whether it's the way government is set up, or the way that our food system is set up, or just anything. You could take any topic, and when you start seeing the truth behind it and the players behind it, it can be a lot for people. And some people have just woken up to the realities of the political system, but they still don't understand how that ties in with the food system or the media system, or any of that stuff. And we just wanted to make a kind document that could walk people through that process, like we've been walking through that process, and let them know that hey, you're not crazy, and you may you're going to lose friends and family along the way, but at the end of the day, that's kind of what happens when you start messing with people's belief systems. And that's what I think that's what everybody is. We all have our belief systems, and one of the more abusive relationships are out there that are out there is the people who are statists, who believe in the state, who believe in the Church of the Red and Blue here in the States, the Republicans and the Democrats, everything that comes out of DC. That is very much a religion. It's got all the markings of a religion. It's got the sacred text. It's got the robes. It's got the chants. It's got the belief in the higher power, that there's this entity in called the District of Columbia that has the right to tell other people what to do, and they are ordained by God to do so, and so all of that stuff. And like the book was just meant to start walking people down that path, like we were walking down that path. And then I said we start putting it together in fourth quarter 2019, and then 2020 happened, and what a time to be putting together a manual of that kind. And so it just turned into a bunch of other things. And I think at the end of the day, maybe the three of us are all in the same place. Where I think we're content creators and conversationalists, and we're just trying to advance the art of conversation and have conversations about things that might be a little difficult, odd, or strange for your average normie to even take on. And so it's just a weird, strange path that has led to having conversations with the likes of you fine gentlemen today. So let's yeah. And I think we're going to touch on one of my favorite topics of all time. So, but I'll let you, Colby, get into that one.
Yeah, I just want to do this. I'll throw it in for you, Ryan. I don't know if you were thinking about this as he was talking, but you were doing the same thing, right? You were throwing together a podcast around that time, right before COVID.
Exactly, man. Right around Christmas, like between Thanksgiving and Christmas of 2019, it seemed like. Got our first episodes going in like February of 2020, and then this whole thing happens in March essentially, right? So just, I mean, and the way that you said a lot of that, John, like I use a lot of that same terminology, man, a lot of it. So I got to mute myself real quick, but yeah, dude, it is nuts.
Yep.
Well, I'll just kind of lay the floor or the groundwork for what we'll talk about today, but mainly John and I discovered, just having a free-flowing conversation, what was that, like December? That was right before New Year's, I believe.
I believe,
yeah. So I mean, since then my life's changed a lot. I've got a kid on the way, and it's kind of been throwing my life into like all sorts of ways this last few months.
I heard congratulations are in order. In fact, it's pretty close, right? I mean,
I mean, it's the due date's the 16th of November, but as what was happening in the last few days, we didn't know if we were going to have to induce labor or whatever. I mean, I did go over this on another episode, but it's it's happening. It's changing my life, and it's making me want to do this more. But anyway, to get back to the point, Laurel Canyon came up, and you and I just started frothing at the bit and just kind of going back and forth. But before we started recording tonight, John and I were talking about the way McGowan ended Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon, with a little teaser about the 80s possibly, which kind of spills over into the 90s. And Ryan on his show, and I mean, you'll have to just kind of tell us, Ryan, because it's been a while since I listened to, but you were talking about bands like Red Hot Chili Peppers, Tool, System of a Down. And I mean, John and I probably spent at least 10 minutes talking shit about Dave Grohl in our last conversation. Anyway, I don't know, Ryan, if you want to just like start talking about some of the stuff you discovered about the 90s scene, and then we could kind of see what John knows about that. Cause I mean, he was there. So
yeah, it's interesting. I actually have this site pulled up.
Oh, let me give you permission to share screen
okay,
if you want that, because I did not do that.
I mean, it's such a really, really interesting like wealth of knowledge here. It's ISGP-studies, and I actually think this is kind of like a CIA front site.
Okay, you should be good to share that.
Okay. Because of the sheer amount of information on here. And I mean, you look up here on the top right, a Harvard history professor says is still reeling from how much excellent work you've managed to bring under one roof. Harvard's a shady institution, right?
Absolutely.
So, and obviously, he could just be throwing that out there. This could be for clout or whatever. But I mean, you go through this list of bands here and groups of how he's got like proven CIA connections to. One you didn't mention was Rage Against the Machine. That's a huge one.
Oh, the big one.
Yeah, I mean, probably one of the very biggest. And I mean, her, I forget the guy's name. I don't think it was it Tom Morello or was it De La Rocha who?
Morello's mother.
Okay.
Yeah. And in fact, one of Morello's first gigs was being a runner, an intern there in the Senate, I believe.
Yeah. And like just the Kenyan connections with them, and any like political family out of Kenya, they're gonna be tied in with the Obamas too, right? Because of Obama's dad. So just an interesting situation. You got some weird stuff with Nine Inch Nails as well.
Oh, the Laurel Canyon ties with Trent Reznor just started coming up for me recently that I had no idea about.
And and just to throw this in, Colby, I was telling you, in the '90s, I played with a band called Seven Simons, and we were signed to several labels. One of which was TBT Records, which is what Reznor was signed to. Pretty Hate Machine had been out for about a year, and then we got signed, and so the money off of Pretty Hate Machine paid for a lot of the stuff that we did. So I got to kind of watch that guy and Steve Gottlieb, the guy who runs TBT, was label president. I got to kind of see them behind the scenes as well, which there's some interesting tales there. Want to hijack?
I think Reznor isn't he now in charge of Apple Music?
Yeah.
Something crazy like that.
Not by happenstance.
Okay.
Apple Music? I had no idea about that. Okay.
If I heard correctly, and it's just like, wow. I mean, that's got to be a pretty solid gig too. But yeah, you look at his infatuation with Charles Manson and recording in that house and everything like that. It's a weird deal. But I wanted to pull this up. This is like having to do with the grunge scene of Seattle. And I don't know if you can verify any of this here, John, but it's just, basically that these evergreen state colleges of the world, the University of Washington, they create these radio stations, right? And then labels come out of these radio stations, Sub Pop being the big one. Does this seem legit to you here, this whole breakdown?
It does. Now, you could do a very similar thing like this in the 80s with with labels like SST and things like that. And I don't know that I would have believed it in the early 80s, but absolutely in the 90s, late 80s into early 90s. I think it was intentionally. It was an intentionally crafted scene, just like the Laurel Canyon scene was intentionally crafted. And I think this diagram that you're putting up here, I think is absolutely legit, because it's a strange dynamic to think of now because it doesn't mean as much, but and I can tell you, as someone who was very, very passionately trying to make their mark in independent music, in a very we want to do it with integrity. We probably would never have signed a major label deal if given the opportunity. So college radio was everything. I mean, the power that college radio yielded was, again, it doesn't exist anymore, certainly not like it once did. And so the college radio acting as farm teams for the eventual content release mechanism, which would be the label. It makes absolute perfect sense, and especially in this area, this demographic, this geographic area that you're talking about right here,
the Pacific Northwest in particular.
Yeah. There's something up with that area, man. You look at all the companies that are coming out of there too: Microsoft, Amazon, Starbucks. I mean, this is it's like Seattle's its own little third world country. You've got some of the worst homeless problems there, and then some of the very richest companies in the world coming out of there. So strange situation. But yeah, you see, if this graphic is to be believed, funding from the Trilateral Commission going into Evergreen State College, creating KAOS FM, and then on the other side, a $600 billion CIA grant basically going to the University of Washington, starting KCMU FM, and then all these different groups coming out of those two radio stations, them forming together to create Sub Pop, and then different Nirvana, Bikini Kill, which I actually hadn't heard of, Green River, Soundgarden.
Bikini Kill is a great band.
Is it?
Yeah, they were phenomenal.
Even though they're feminists?
It meant something different back then.
I know. That was first wave. First wave feminism. That's a little more normal.
The fun ones, right?
Yeah. Like you could actually have conversations and beers together and still be friends.
No trigger warnings required.
They've really done something wild with that these days, but Yeah, some other ones that really stood out to me, System of a Down, because I was still a huge fan of the music. I can separate the art from the artist, and
you have to if you want to enjoy anything anymore, because it's just fuck.
I can up to a point, but like the Rage guys, like I was, I worked for Tower Records for years, and back in the day when new releases used to come out on Tuesday, I saw Rage Against the Machine. The record came, the first one came out on Tuesday, and I saw them that Thursday in a little club in Phoenix called the Mason Jar. And there must have been 60, 70 people there. And the only reason why people were there was Tom Morello had a band previously called Lockup. And Lockup was a pretty big Southern California, almost Chili Peppers-ish type of, funk metal type blend, and they just never really made it. So most of the people in that room that night were there because it was, they're just looking to see what Morello was doing next. But that first record was just phenomenal, and I believed it. I believed every bit of it, just like I believed Jello Biafra of the Dead Kennedys, just like, I believed Grohl. I believed the Nirvana guys, when they first came out. But looking back on it now, especially with the Rage guys, I mean, there was nothing ever independent about them. They were always on Sony. When I hear people refer to Rage Against the Machine these days as Sony soy boys, it just makes me laugh, because it's exactly what they are. They clearly meant nothing of what they sang of, because they were us. They were one of the first bands that were demanding people be jabbed to attend their shows. They were first on that bandwagon too. So I mean, how rock and roll is that, to be a conformist, corporate slave?
Yeah, dude. I mean, this guy here, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, Dylan Carlson.
Yep.
Really interesting dude, and his musical band, it seems like they don't do any vocals in his current thing, but this, from what I understand, was like Kurt Cobain's big like introduction into the occult, if I'm not mistaken. Like, this dude is like essentially like a warlock or a wizard, if you wanted to put it like that. Like, the dude is into some wild stuff. He's got like spells tattooed on him and stuff, if I'm understanding the rumors and stuff correctly. But
yeah, it's consistent with the narrative I've heard as well. And, I've never been in the room with the guy, but I've heard very similar things about Dylan.
Dad worked for the Department of Defense. That's always nice, right?
Also, that's very Laurel Canyon-esque right there.
Right. I mean, it's just nuts, man. And you see that over and over again. The big ones are like Jimi Hendrix being in the military, and then you've got people like the Doors, Jim Morrison, stuff like that, right?
Well,
like
his papa.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Golf the Tonkin.
It's nuts, dude. So you wonder too, like, some of these artists coming out today. I'll stop sharing for now, but like these artists coming out today, like Doja Cat, right? I'm not a big fan of the music, right, at all. Like, it's not my style. But what makes someone like that switch so crazy? I mean, I don't know if you guys saw Doja Cat when she first came onto the scene. Beautiful. I mean, stunning, gorgeous girl. And now she's shaving her head and her eyebrows. It seems like she's not eating or something.
He was a very beautiful man when he first came out.
Do you think that's a dude?
Do you think that's a dude?
I need to dive into Doja more, because I've not heard that one.
Yeah.
Ryan, have you heard that?
No, because she had such a nice body before.
Well, look at Megan Fox, look at Paris Hilton,
okay. I mean, yeah, I've heard the Megan Fox and stuff. Is there any like credible proof to these things? Because at a certain point, it almost is like everyone, and I'm not disagreeing, by the way, John. I'm just saying, like,
no, and obviously, I mean, unless without having actually had sexual relations,
seen it.
Well, there's no way to confirm it. But I do, for a while there, I was really getting, and for different reasons, not for this reason, but I was really getting into facial biometrics. And the difference between a male face versus a female face, and then the male body versus the female body, and there are some things that you just can't, like, once you understand it and it's hard to unsee, and so like I think that, and I say this with like there we go.
This is like a...
You don't have to believe what the powers that shouldn't be are into some very, very dark energies, dark practices, dark procedures, dark ceremony. They're just into some very dark stuff. You don't have to believe. I don't have to believe, but they do. And instrumental in that belief system is inversion, is the concept of inversion, that up is down, black is white, right is left, boy is girl, girl is boy, that whole thing. And so this type of thing, right now it's all wrapped up in this transgender thing because it's social posturing, and they're trying, it's become propagandized, and it's, a movement is being established. But behind that movement, I think, are some very deeply held beliefs, and I think that and I'll take it one step further. I wouldn't be too surprised if we right now went and saw a Doja Cat performance, the human being on that stage may very well not even be the same human being that we were just looking at those early pictures.
I believe that 100%.
Yeah, because I can tell you, I can tell you firsthand, there is all sorts of multi-purposing of celebrity. I mean, like they'll retire one celebrity publicly, they'll retire them, and then that same human being that was that celebrity will emerge again somewhere else as a different celebrity. So there's that going on. There's you could. Wasn't it that like the 3 Tom Cruise pictures that were the 3 guys?
Biden is another one that you'd be able to, like, his 60-minute appearances, his last 2, because I kind of don't pay attention to that kind of shit, because I think it's just a psyop on top of another psyop. It's like, how deep in the lasagna do you want to go? But you look at the pictures of 2-3 months apart, separate interviews. That is not the same guy. It's almost like they're fucking with us on a level. Like,
he's got a Peter Griffin chin now. I don't know if you've seen it. It's like he's got a ball sack on his chin.
Well, I mean, how many different Hillary Clintons have there been? I mean, there's been 4 or 5. I mean, if they do it in the entertainment industry, I mean, I don't think it's a big secret. I mean, I think, people who follow this type of stuff, or at least entertain the possibility that it may be legit, I mean, would say, especially in the entertainment industry, I mean, we might be on the 3rd or 4th Adele.
She doesn't look the same at all. That one's easy to believe. So I do, Ryan, for some context here, I want to tell you, John, if I speak incorrectly, feel free to step in. But John believes that Alex Jones is Bill Hicks, and like, I've heard that, and I haven't really met a lot of people who believed it until John. But I love both of those guys, like Alex Jones early on, and Bill Hicks is just, he's one of those guys for me.
All-time greats, yeah.
And so you do believe that, correct, John?
Yeah, well, that's glossing over it, but I think that there actually was, and there is. I don't have it here, but I do have it on a hard drive, backed up, things that I've saved over the years. But there was actually an Alex Jones radio personality out of Texas, I believe. Pretty sure it was out of Texas, and there was an Alex Jones, and he kind of looked a little bit like, I mean, not like the Alex Jones that we know today, but that individual, there's a whole story there, and it's very Dave McGowan-ish, where that individual just goes away, and in his place comes this other Alex Jones.
Over the years, I made many videos proving Alex Jones and Bill Hicks are one and the same. In this video, I'm going to show how Alex Jones was replaced by Bill Hicks, and then Bill Hicks became the new Alex Jones. First, I'm going to show 2 clips. This is from 1999. You're going to see the real Alex Jones and the replacement in that order. Take a look.
Here we are at a council member's house, home, down here in Austin. And I'm not going to tell you their address or who they are, but you ought to see how overgrown their house is.
Now, one thing I want to point out right away with the real Alex Jones, the hairline, the color of the hair, and let me back up at the very start. Look at those teeth. There's absolutely no gap in between the teeth whatsoever. And I'm going to show that a bit more. I'm going to continue the video. We'll go from there.
I mean, this is just ridiculous. Very nice little neighborhood over there, I will tell you. I think it makes me the maddest is how the paper countered with that story. We came out and did a story about Mr. Ellingson being harassed by the health department and environmental services, and 2 days later, there was a front page thing on the health department saying how wonderful they are stopping crime.
Now I'm going to play a clip later in the year. This is, again, 1999, the same year. This is December of 99 with Alex Jones. This is Bill Hicks that replaced the real Alex Jones. And you can see the difference in the hair color, sound different. Again, the hairline's different. Just clearly not the same person. And I always mention mockery and how they love to mock. And here's another example when he talks about rumors of his demise. Take a listen.
Rumors of my demise can be greatly exaggerated. You know, I get 30, 40 times the email and letters from my Genesis show. Is that right? Yeah, we just get the Genesis program on in Austin or Temple or San Antonio. I've already gotten some inquiries from Austin and several from San Antonio.
Clearly not the same person. The voice, the hair, again the hairline, different color. Now let's take a look at this image here. Again, the same year. You can clearly see, go to that image, here we go. Clearly see this is not the same Alex Jones. The hairline, again, the hair color, the face, this man looks a bit older. I know he's making this face here, but clearly not the same person. Just another image here. You can see again with today's Alex Jones, you can see that clear gap between his teeth. And of course, I mentioned before, the reason he's showing his teeth, this is again a form of mockery. Why else would he show his teeth? He's telling you who he is. And that's Bill Hicks. Same exact gap in the teeth. The same exact tooth in the bottom here. Canine sticking out. And look at the Alex Jones, the real Alex Jones. And you see no gap between the teeth. I'll show another image here. Again, clearly showing there's no gap between this Alex Jones teeth. This is the real Alex Jones. And here's his replacement, Bill Hicks. How obvious can it be that these two are one and the same?
This is the entertainment industry. This is how I always try to anchor this stuff. This is the entertainment industry. Nobody really thinks that, you know, Brad Pitt is is Tyler Durden, and you know that's a character that human being was playing. And hell, I don't even know if Brad Pitt's his real human being name. Who knows? A lot of these are commercial entities that are created for legal reasons, and you know they're not even real people to begin with. But yes, so I don't think it's too far of a stretch to say if they do it in the entertainment industry, why would they not do it in any other vertical? Be it sports, be it religion, be it politics, be it whatever it is if you've got those who are trying to control and manipulate need audience. They need an audience. And one thing that you can't do, at least currently, is nobody has thought up a way to just snap their fingers and have that magic X factor that makes bunches of people love you, you know, but these people come along. The Kurt Cobain character was certainly one. I think Taylor Swift would be considered one today, where for whatever reason they've just got that X factor that so many people in mass love them, and that's really powerful. And I think when you've got that X factor, and I actually early on I helped. You know, I live outside of Nashville, and in a past employment capacity, I helped Taylor Swift and her father. There was a team of us that helped stuff the Tim McGraw CD single into padded envelopes and send it out to radio. Now, that 16-year-old girl that was in that room that day that I helped and saw periodically as her career started to take off, I firmly, with every ounce of my being, do not believe in any way, shape, or form that the human being that is on the stage today is that same person.
So do you think that they are actually, is this a scientific thing? Is this like getting into cloning?
I I don't even think you have to go that far. Look,
you don't have to, but
Eminem, Eminem is within the last year or so. Eminem, I think we even talked about this on the last episode. Eminem's had several body doubles, and one of them recently died. And in the mainstream clip, I forget what garbage mainstream news piece it was, but they even said that this individual had appeared as Eminem at award shows and live appearances, and so there, and again, anyone can search for the picture of 3 Tom Cruises, and you can't tell if which one is the real Tom, if any of those are the real Tom Cruise. It's not hard to get lookalikes. It's just not, and it's when they go to the next step of like cosmetically altering people so that they're perfect dead on ringers for whoever it is that they need a backup for, or it's completely plausible, because I've seen this happen behind the scenes countless times, where celebrity A starts off with the best of intentions, garners an audience, hones their craft, does something and has some success, and they get to a level of success, and the industry talk, the inevitable industry talk happens, and they get asked, I'm paraphrasing, but are you going to be a team player? Or are you not going to be a team player? And when that talk happens, one of those options, I think a lot of people, even if they're following this narrative up to this point, would think, well, what if they disagree, do they kill them? Well, I don't think that always happens.
They can kill their career, which is,
or they can strike a deal and they can go, hey, I'm kind of done with this. Like, I thought I wanted to do this, and now that I got this fame and fortune, I don't really want to do this anymore. Well, it's a very sound business model for the entity that got you there, financially backed you and got you there, and is your business partner, and in some cases owns you straight up, to just get a stand-in. And just and for someone like Doja Cat, I mean, has anyone ever like sat and watched Doja Cat actually play an instrument? Or, I mean, it would be pretty easy to get a stand-in for. I mean, right. You're essentially, it's like the old Brady Bunch episode. You just need someone to wear the clothes, or wear the suit.
What do you think of the Paul McCartney rumors? Was that just like?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm dead believer, dead on believer that McCartney was taken out and was killed in that auto accident. I mean, and I think that's a great storyline too, because we can learn a lot from that, because there were some big oversights. I mean, you're talking like several inches different in height. You're talking about some ex-wives and that spoke out a little too soon. Like it was a bit of a, I think it's probably one of the first times in
prototype
modern media where they had to address that issue, because there was so much audience garnered for that brand, and it was new. Something like that had never really happened before, and they couldn't lose that audience. They couldn't lose that momentum. So it made sense to keep it going. And I don't think it's conspiratorial honestly. I mean, if I'm looking at it from an entertainment industry standpoint and a logistical business model and decision-making process, I think it's not even that far-fetched.
Well, it seems like it would actually make more sense if someone's a cash cow and then they die in their peak, right? Like, why would you want them, like, all that business to just go away? I mean, concerts create little economies in cities when they go to them, the amount of business that, like Taylor Swift that you mentioned, which I can't stand. Every time I'm watching a freaking Chiefs game, I don't need to see her eating nachos every time Travis Kelce touches the ball.
Dude, she has an orgasm every time they put the camera on her.
She loves it. Do you think that there's any relation to Zena LeVay there?
Oh, I like
fun one.
I like that we're going here, because I was thinking about this morning. This very thing. Yeah, because...
So you've seen the similarity, Colby. John, have you seen the similarity between her and Zena LeVay?
I have not.
Okay, I'll pull this up, because this is a dead ringer. And are you familiar with who the Zena LeVay is?
I've heard the name, but I don't think I could give you a 30-minute presentation on Zena LeVay and her talent.
So Anton LaVey's daughter, basically, is all you need to know. Anton LaVey, big Satanist. Yeah. So check this girl out, dude. I mean, this is Taylor Swift right here.
Yeah. The younger pictures especially, and I mean...
This was her on the Geraldo show, you know, and then like modern times, she looks like she could be her mom. You know, just I don't know, it just looks like a dead ringer to me.
So what's your explanation for that, Ryan? Do you have any guesses?
What's my explanation? I think like, you know, she could be her daughter. I mean, you know, maybe a clone. I don't know. I haven't really thought too much about it. I always just, you know, for sake of being kind of controversial, I always just say, you know, it is her. But
you know, and there's the people who believe and live this way, and are in that dark lifestyle. A common thread that seems to run through whenever you're talking about this is they all seem to be tied to the eugenics movement or belief system, and part of that eugenics thing is immortality,
right.
and you know the use of blood and to obtain that immorality or that youthfulness, and so I mean I don't. It's
well, that guy that's in the news all the time right now, he's the tech dude that's like taking his son's blood, and he's got, I mean, they talk about him on Joe Rogan. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he's literally doing the blood transfusions openly with younger people. And
there's a company called Ambrosia that does that, where they take blood from willing young adults, they say, right?
Hey, everybody's broke right now. It's the perfect fucking opportunity, you know, just give some blood.
Dude, I had a friend and when we were kind of all broke, you know, back in like my early 20s, we worked at a breakfast restaurant, and every time it was his birthday, he would go and donate plasma because he'd get $50. And then when you're low on blood like that, you go to the bar, you only need like one drink to get like completely drunk. So he's going in there, he's giving blood and then just getting completely wasted off of like $5. It's so funny. But yeah, man, we're going back to those times.
Yeah, man, talk about ingenuity, man. That's
next level.
That's making the most.
Dude's living in the future for sure.
Yeah, I salute that way of thinking.
Right. I don't know if I would. I've never done that, and I consider myself to be a drinker, but yeah, wild. But yeah, man, just when you look at all these different people and like the possibilities, I know another fun one is freaking Jimi Hendrix and Morgan Freeman, right?
Freeman,
Don brought that up in our last episode together, actually.
Okay.
The rumor, you're not, okay, so I'm sorry for glossing over the Bill Hicks thing with you, but I actually just wanted you to give that whole speech you did about that, John, because I think it's a huge part of this. Because, I mean, Saddam Hussein had body doubles, and if with that economy, if they can pull that kind of shit off, like,
well, and it's easier like when it's a character like Saddam Hussein, or look how many different Osama bin Ladens were there. When it's something, when it's a character like that you are not going to run in, you're not going to run into Saddam Hussein or Osama bin Laden at Walmart. You know what I mean? You might run into a Taylor Swift or something like that, you know. But when it's a character like a Saddam Hussein, you don't even have to go to the extent. You just need some photographs, really, or some you know, obscure video footage of that, and that person can be whoever they want that person to be. But the Bill Hicks thing, I think, is a perfect. I think it's perfectly sane and perfectly plausible to say that would be a good example of someone who maybe got to where he wanted to go as a stand-up comedian, was clearly pushing some buttons, probably had the talk, and was probably made an offer and said, I know those talks. Like I said, it's not just, be a team player or we'll kill you. I mean, it could be, well, what if we do this? What if we, we basically cash you out and you go live happily ever after anonymously over here, and we'll bring in somebody who can carry the brand on, and sometimes those situations get signed off on. Sometimes, like I believe would happen with the Hicks Alex Jones thing, is they said, look, let's retire this character. And if you don't completely want to, fuck off and go quietly, into obscurity, sometimes those people want to keep working. And
well, I mean, to be a stand-up comedian, you crave the spotlight. So to have the opportunity to become Alex Jones,
they're playing it. They're playing a part of a character, and again, it's infotainment, if you will. And if you notice, even like, I don't know, there was always something about the whole Alex Jones thing that just I was always really skeptical of, because it just seemed to I don't know, it seemed too set up. It was almost like the same thing with like Rush Limbaugh. It just seemed too set up. Like, okay, here is your go-to guy for this mindset or whatever. And so I never bought into Alex Jones. I always thought it was just a little too convenient. But
he gets away with saying some wild stuff too, John. Like,
yeah, and this, the whole thing about like him being persecuted for Sandy Hook and the insane amount of money, that's just news. Like, I guarantee
he still got his show going. I mean, how much
if
is
that
really
happened
lost?
to you or me, like if that happened to any of us, we'd be absolutely devastated and probably not even. I mean, little old me 2 days ago got my Vimeo, 2 of my Vimeo accounts wiped out. Just no questions asked. Just got said, you know, because my content violated their terms of use or whatever. And it was just talking about medical industry stuff. It wasn't, we weren't talking about anything conspiratorial. But they didn't like it. So if little old me can get my my Vimeo accounts wiped out, a couple days ago, how is if Alex Jones is really who he says, or we're told he is, how he still even got a show, and knowing what the supposed narrative is? So I don't know. It's just again, it's infotainment.
Well, they'll tell you that he got wiped off of all the podcatchers and all this stuff, but that got him so much more popular. Mm-hmm. And more people started paying attention, trafficking his website, buying his merch. I mean, watching his
Howard
show,
Stern model.
Yeah, I mean, watching his show, it's like a giant infomercial, man. You get 5 minutes of content.
Infowars, infomercial. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's really nuts. And now they're doing the same thing with Owen Schroyer, who's one of the guys that works for him, where like it seems like every other year he's facing jail time or something, Yeah. So I don't know, man. I heard too that Alex Jones is the nephew of Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know if that's real or not.
Really?
Yeah. Mm.
I know that he was on the payroll of Time Warner though for a while.
And I always found it interesting that Richard Linklater, pretty prominent filmmaker, he's done he did Dazed and Confused, but the stuff that I liked from him was like Waking Life, that just real cerebral, trippy ass. It was the animation that they add on to real footage and post-production. It invented it. But Alex Jones got a plug on there. He got to be a character. And then he did a Scanner Darkly, which was based on a Philip K. Dick novel. Alex Jones is also in that. He gets fucking swarmed by a SWAT team or some shit. And he was nobody back then. It's almost like what John's saying, like they needed to put this guy in some pretty mainstream movies, really,
to work. I mean, again, yeah. I mean, maybe maybe the Bill Hicks character, maybe he pushed that a little too far,
and he's tied into Tool, which cannot be overlooked since that's the era that we're talking about with the music stuff.
Who only releases records when Democrats are in power.
That is true, huh?
That one stabs deep, guys. I'm a hardcore Tool fan.
Dude, it stabs deep for me too, because I even to the point where, like, I mean, I've got some of the original bottles of Maynard's wine, like, because I really dug what he was. I grew up in Arizona, so I dug the idea of him telling, again, I believed it. I believed that he, pretty much said, fuck it, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go grow wine and volcanic ash on the side of a mountain in Arizona. I was like, that sounds pretty cool. And I love wine and I love the organic growing thing. So I got really into that, but no, dude, he's military intelligence all the way.
He joined voluntarily to pay for art school, and then his fucking tie in with Joe Rogan now. Like, they're just best friends. Joe Rogan and Maynard.
These people, those that want to work, and he's one of them that wants to work. They get put to work, and they can pull an audience. And so I don't know, these, it's again, I don't even think it's conspiratorial. I think it's just how that business model is structured. And if you're a good employee and you want to work and you can be a team player, you're gonna have all sorts of success. I mean, look at look at somebody like Jack Black.
Oh, let's talk about him because he's always confused me. So go for it.
No, I just think I think he's one of those. He's probably employee of the month every month for doing. I mean, he's multi-purposed to death. I mean, I think he's
hardcore Dave Grohl connection too. There,
absolutely, which is again, Grohl's one Grohl. If he ever was one of us, he's long since left that camp. And
I think the way he conveniently became Nirvana's second drummer, just kind of happenstance. I think that whole story is Gusty because he's from DC. Am I right about that?
Yeah, he was in a band called Scream. Yeah, he's in a DC band called Scream, and got that gig. And I don't know. I mean, he's again, I think he's someone who he wants to work, and he's a willing team player, and I'm sure.
What about this? Is he possibly okay? I don't want to accuse anybody of anything here. This is just thought exercise. But you always talk about blood sacrifice. Everybody says Kurt was Courtney's blood sacrifice, but I've heard a couple more obscure people say, no, he was Dave Grohl's sacrifice. And I don't know what that means. Who knows who pulled the trigger? But look at who has launched since then, and it started real quick too. It was only a couple years before the Foo Fighters was the biggest band.
Are you saying that Dave Grohl, the guy who made a movie about him killing his bandmates and then released the movie, and then his bandmates started to die? Are you talking about that, Dave Grohl? Oh.
He's the devil in Tenacious D too.
Yeah.
He's the freaking devil in that, man.
Yeah.
When I first read about that Dylan guy that I mentioned, the dude connected to Kurt Cobain, forgetting his last name already, Dylan Carlson. I thought he might have been the one that was kind of putting this whole thing together with the suicide of Kurt Cobain, but he hasn't really risen to that star level like Grohl has. But then you look at Courtney Love, and her dad was the roadie for the Grateful Dead. Right, which is wild. I mean, it's such a small world, right?
And the Dead is crazy.
Oh, they're the CIA band right there.
Yeah, I mean, he was the manager when they were the fucking Warlocks. I mean, he was there from the beginning. And
the Warlocks, dude.
Yeah,
I forgot.
And then I mean, she basically Laurel Canyon to fucking Liverpool when her dad was living there. She showed up with these CIA handlers and a fucking suitcase full of LSD, and then she started coming here, and her wake goes all up and down the West Coast. I mean, she's a foot soldier for Laurel Canyon kind of type MK.
Absolutely.
Shit.
And I think Cobain is an interesting character because, in my opinion, I think Cobain was used. If I had to explain the whole, my take on what has happened, I think Cobain was one of those people. For whatever reason, he had that it factor. He could draw an audience. People were I was very guilty of that too, man. The second I heard Bleach, it was just love it first sight, and I was there. I loved every fucking minute of it. But looking back on it, I think you've got I think the Grohl character has got dark connections and a past that would indicate that maybe Courtney Love for sure. Maybe that Dylan Carl. I think Cobain was taken out purposefully to create brand awareness and create this ongoing legacy scenario that can just be monetized until the end of time. Because I don't think that he would have been a good team player.
No, he was already starting to show interest in leaving Nirvana, and then he ends up dead.
Yeah, and I think a very similar scenario with Michael Jackson too. I mean, I think Michael Jackson was obviously much bigger, but Michael Jackson was hard to control. Even when they tried to destroy him, they tried to Bill Cosby him. he was still speaking out. And I mean, there's all sorts of Michael Jackson footage out there. Again, I've saved a lot of it where, he's looking into the camera going, everything they're telling you is, our history. It's all like, I mean, I think he was hard to control as well. And so I think he was taken out, and that just ensures that brand goes on forever and ever and ever. And, and so I don't know. I think Cobain was a puppet and was used, and I don't even know that it was a sacrifice. I don't know, maybe some close to him looked at it as a sacrifice, but I think from a strategic standpoint, that was the best path forward. Get rid of them, create this, oh my gosh, when somebody dies, and nothing boosts your sales like dying, and it was the right place, right time, right era, and they made him into this mega brand that now you can walk into a Walmart anywhere and buy a Nirvana t-shirt, and that's it's big business.
Do you know much about that Geffen Records, John? Geffen Records, I guess that was their record label.
Well, yeah, I mean they were definitely they were a David Geffen, who is another character, right? I mean we could probably do a whole show on David Geffen and his weird connections and lifestyle choices, and I mean
is there some cliff notes of that you could give us?
I'd love to hear some.
We should I mean seriously, like we should do a show on like music industry bigwigs like Geffen, because I mean him and everybody behind like Amat with Atlantic and the whole Warner Brothers. There's some pretty deep connections. I mean it's again it's more of the same. It's CIA, military, intelligence. It does seem when you get into this and you start looking at the background of really any of these big entertainment brands, it does seem they all have a common thread that there's military CIA ties to almost everybody. And in fact not to make light of this, because I'm sure that there were some people who actually really did suffer and perish, but that the supposed bowling alley shooting a couple days ago, was it yesterday or
in Maine?
I just saw a headline come through, and I'm already like my very first place my mind went was I don't know. I just saw the picture of the shooter coming in through the bowling alley with the gun raised. I was like, I guarantee you that guy got military connections.
They always do. Yeah.
I guarantee you. And it was like within the first few sentences of the paragraph that I was reading, it was like, yeah, for a bit.
Well, I went down a freaking rabbit hole the other day and did an episode on it too, where there's this chemical company that is also heavily affiliated with the medical industrial complex, which is a term I use as well. I don't know if you've heard of the Solvay family, but this is a thing that you'd be obsessed with, John.
Yes.
Yeah, they are incredibly interesting, and they made the drug. It was an SSRI. I think it's still in existence today, but that the Columbine shooter, I mean, that's the OG school shooting, right?
Mm-hmm.
That one of the shooters, I forget which one, but he was on their drug. Yeah. And just the wake of bodies that these freaking people leave, man, and like whether they're poisoning rivers or just completely neglecting like standard safety protocols with their chemical production, and then just turning around, they're heavily invested in fluoride. And I mean, it seems like a really small world again when you get into high levels of society. It's all people that freaking know each other, whether it's the music industry. You mentioned Geffen. Rick Rubin's another one that I'm really interested in. I mean, the guy is incredibly talented, it seems like, but then it's like,
he's led a very charmed life, almost too charmed. He's actually from a production standpoint, he's produced some of my favorite records, and
interesting dude.
He was the one that that took Johnny Cash at the end of his life and got Johnny Cash all those wonderful recordings he got out of Cash before Cash passed away. But I actually have
you don't like his old or his newer stuff?
I don't.
No.
I get sad when I listen to it because I love Johnny Cash, and
it was cool, if nothing else, just, and I'm an absolute music nerd, but if nothing else, and Cash, like I actually, I want to say he was my friend, but I mean, I managed Tower Record Store here in Nashville for years, and he was a regular visitor to that store, and
cool.
and I employed his granddaughter Caitlin, and like, I mean, there, he was a regular at the store. He was
cool.
He was a good guy, and was always real good to us. And but I thought it was cool. It was cool that Ruben. It could have been anybody, but it was Ruben that did it. They got that guy to one last time, because I don't think he had a whole lot of spark left in him.
So here's the
Ruben got him excited.
I want to clarify, because it seems like you had some run-ins with him. So to me, it seemed like maybe they were getting like a Joe Biden presidency, like just like a last moneymaker, and that they just sat him down. But I've heard Trent Reznor say, "That's not my song anymore."
Yeah.
And if I'll just put it this way, and you'll know, John, but if he was into it, and it wasn't just like, I mean, I'm sure he was. It was in his blood.
He is. I'm, being an old, rock and roll, especially punk rock guy. I long for those type of artists that can just stand up in a room with like an acoustic guitar and nothing else, and just fucking slay you. And that's such a rare, it's always been a rare talent, but it's even more rare these days because, most people don't actually play instruments. It's all, the music is all played for you, on a lot of these electronic, I mean, even guitar players. I mean, you go watch your average young guitar player playing in a band, and they've got more foot pedals on the, and effects and stuff like that. And it's like, I want someone who can just pick up a guitar, acoustic or otherwise, and sing a song and fucking slay you. And Cash was
shred it.
Yeah, Cash was one of those kind of guys, and there was a while there where there was a group of them. You had the Merle Haggards, and those type of people who could just pick up a guitar and sing you a song, and so he at the end of his life, he got an opportunity to do that again, and I think it was because of Ruben. And Ruben obviously is a huge fan of stripped down production, I mean, he and straight ahead production, and so it was whether or not Ruben's got evil ties or whatever, I am thankful that we got that last little bit of music out of Cass, because it wouldn't have happened otherwise.
Well, we're on that topic. Do you think the outlaw country has some like Laurel Canyon-esque attributes behind it, or is it kind of one of the organic ones? Because I got to think that some of these music movements are like actually grassroots. I could be wrong about that, but I do think that I think they kind of have to be some of them.
Yeah. Well, I think everything is grassroots when it first starts out, and then it gets
until somebody sees how green that grass is, and they want to get in on it.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I mean, I'm sure that there was a time, I mean, like with Nirvana, when that band that recorded Bleach, that first release. I mean, I do to this day believe that I am listening to a real music that was made by guys that were my age at the time, and I don't think it was manipulated at that point, but it got manipulated very quickly when that caught fire, and there weren't too many things that have happened in my lifetime that took off that fast, like Nevermind took off. I mean, I was working in record stores when that happened, and it was unbelievable. It was overnight, just all, and again, like nowadays it doesn't seem so weird because you can go from being a nobody to world famous overnight because of the internet. But when there wasn't any of that, and your fame depended upon these physical things, people had to go buy, and then I had to come over to your house and go, dude, you got to hear this song, and then you were like, oh, I got to go buy that song, and then it just happened organically and physically. It's like that doesn't happen much, if at all, anymore, and it's a powerful thing when it does, and so this just, again, I sorry if I keep repeating myself, but that ability to attract audience at that level is really valuable to the powers that shouldn't be, and at some point, like I said, I think most things are organic and real when they start out. But man, when they smell that green grass, it gets things get co-opted quick.
Yeah.
Just ask Kanye West.
Oh, I know.
It is interesting though how you bring that up, Colby. The like how many of these music genres are legit and how many are grassroots, how many aren't, whatever. Like the whole crime rhyme thing, that was absolutely 100% created by the government. It seems.
What is it? Crime rhyme?
Crime rhyme. Like what? Are you familiar with that, John? It's like what NWA was doing, like where it's just like where hip hop started off as a really positive thing. Rhyming and kind of being goofy, and then they start talking about killing and selling drugs and pimping and all this stuff. And obviously it's catered to the black kids, right? Obviously now everyone listens to it, but at its beginning it was catered to black kids to help separate the family units, right? To kind of glorify being a deadbeat dad. All these things, man.
And it happened right around the time when the whole crack, infusion into that community was happening. No, I mean, you're right. And I mean, I confessed I'm a music nerd, and I absolutely love late 80s, early 90s New York hip hop, like all of it. I mean, Eric B. and Rakim, Wu-Tang, all of that stuff. And it was all positive. I mean, like
funny almost, right?
Yeah, when hip hop came out, it was braggadocious, and then it went from being braggadocious to being like a very positive thing. All that conscious hip hop that came out, it was because of what was happening in the community. No, 100%. NWA was put together by Jerry Heller. Not exactly your urban media mogul. Right. He was an old Jewish dude, with a bunch of money.
Well, and they kind of had a little nod to that in The Sopranos with one. I think his name was Saul. He was the Jewish character that was like the producer, and he had put together this gangster rap band.
Interesting.
And they didn't really. It was just one episode, and it wasn't like it was just kind of a little tip of the hat. So yeah.
Well, supposedly the story is whatever asset. And then you also think about that Eazy-E ends up in the White House and then probably contracts AIDS there, right? I mean, that's a weird situation, dude. Like, how do you go from being Eazy-E, doing what you're doing, selling drugs and all this stuff? You get approached. You're kind of the face of this group that is really kind of like damaging the youth. And it makes you sound like an old person saying that, but that's what they were doing.
That is what they were doing.
And then you end up in the freaking White House, man. Like, not that many musicians get to the White House, right? And then supposedly the story was they approached like the I think it was Crazy Bone from Bone Thugs. Mm-hmm. And they said like, hey, start talking about this and we'll make sure that you get a lot of money. And he was like, well, no, we're not going to change our sound. And then they kind of fell off, after a little while. And now, I mean, there's freaking movies being made of NWA. And it's, I don't know, man. Ice Cube is still a freaking thing. I think he owns ESPN.
Yeah. I'm a massive Cube fan, and every day I'm like, oh, please don't let that guy. Like, I want to believe that he is who he says he is. He's one of the few that hasn't fully disappointed me yet.
Well, give him time, because why would he be as big as he is? I mean, I can't.
Well, he didn't grow up as poor as he said. No, his parents were fairly wealthy.
Yeah, I mean, he was the private school guy, right? He got bussed in from the projects, he always says. But, I mean, he's a movie star. He's really into politics in the last 2 elections. He kind of just like skirts in and he gives drops some fucking awesome shit to say about what's going on.
Massive stakeholder in ESPN and Disney, if I'm not mistaken, too. Like huge, like borderline owner of that shit, which is wild. So
oh man, I don't want to believe.
You gotta kill your darlings. Oh, that's what we're doing here tonight. Like I used to fucking have out of body experiences listening to some of the bands we're talking about.
That would mean the only one left would be Morrissey. How ironic is that? Is Morrissey of anybody? Morrissey ends up being like the most legit, real, just punk rock.
It would make sense in a lot of ways, though, because I disagree with his politics. I disagree with his lifestyle, but he doesn't fucking compromise jack shit.
He's never claimed to be anything other than who he is, and he's never made any bones about it. And he's just hey, And you gotta respect that. You know, I mean, I will respect anybody that just owns who they are, and he has. I gotta give him credit. Oh, please don't say Ice Cube is one of.
Well, I don't know. You know, it's just one of those things where it's like, you know, I'm always skeptical of these huge figures, you know, and like you said, you can still separate the art from the artist. You know what I mean? Like I do it with just about everybody. And like, I'm a huge UFC fan and I really like Dana White, like what he says and like how he runs the company, but his personal life and his morals kind of suck. You know, he just partnered up with Bud Light, which, you know, I saw this great meme where Bud Light's trying to prove that they're not gay by sponsoring a sport where men roll around in their underwear for 25 minutes, right? You know, you got to separate these guys from what they actually do. But I think that, you know, he's an incredibly entertaining and interesting guy, but probably a horrible person.
You got to hand it to Anheuser-Busch, man. They didn't even whatever it cost to make up those one or two little mock cans and push that little scripted narrative out. You know, like overnight, Modelo, which is another brand that they own, becomes the number 1 selling, you know, beer. You know, overnight.
This episode
is brought to you by
Modelo.
Hey, Ryan, I like that beer you're drinking. That's from my neck of the woods.
I love this stuff, man. Yeah, that's why.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, New Belgium. Yeah,
man.
Fort Collins, Colorado, man. That's where my in-laws grew up, right around the corner from that brewery. Man, I watched those guys go from a little building to what they are now, and they've got like, I don't know, half dozen breweries now.
Yeah, they're huge. You mentioned too that you grew up in Arizona. What part of Arizona you grew up in?
Grew up in Tempe.
Okay, I'm in Tucson.
Nice.
I was asking myself, should I tell John that, hey, you know, he's from Arizona too? Because it's come up twice now. We're like the Arizona connection here.
How long have you been in Tucson?
My whole life, man. 32 years.
Oh, right on. Yeah, Mount Graham was one of my favorite places to hang out. I've been up on that mountain a lot. And do you remember the band Gentlemen After Dark?
No.
Oh, they were really, really, really fundamental Tucson band that migrated up to Phoenix, and
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, but no, I like the Tucson. In fact, I'm heading that way here in about a week. I've got a high school reunion I am attending
in Tucson.
No, I may get down to Tucson, but the reunion's in Tempe.
Okay, because I was going to say, what school? There's only like 7 high schools down here, so I would have known what it is. But yeah, man, it's interesting, like just the culture, and they're trying to push music and hip hop a lot here right now. It's obviously everywhere, but it's kind of funny because there's not, like, they try to make it seem like it's like dangerous here. Like, you know, a lot of the hip hop, the big like mega hip hop meccas or whatever you want to call them, New York, LA, things like that, there's actually like pretty dangerous parts there, and they kind of glamorize that, and they're trying to make it seem like it's like that here in Tucson, and it's not, man. It's actually a really safe, like, legit place. There's some shady spots, just like there is in any freaking city.
Any city's got that.
But it's funny, man. It's like, why not like own the fact that like crime is pretty low, and why not own the fact that it's a good place to live and raise a family? But instead you're trying to push this narrative out there that's just not true, that it's dangerous, and, you know, call it dirty tea and all this shit. It's like, come on.
Dirty tea?
Yeah, dude. Isn't that bad? It's not, I mean, it's dirt. There's a lot of dirt out here, but it's a freaking desert.
Yeah, but if it bleeds, it leads, man. You got to get got to get that kind of attention. Yeah, you can't have peace, love, and harmony. Yeah, that's no fun.
Yeah, it's like people just love chaos, man.
They do. Well, yeah, I mean, we are marinating in narcissism, and, you know, chaos is a great petri dish for narcissism.
It's that main character complex that so many people have, where everyone thinks that like they're living their main, like they're like the main character in a movie, and everyone else is just like living in their reality. I think it's kind of a wild idea.
Yeah.
And I get down to simulation theory, but I don't think it's just my simulation. We're all fucking doing it, like, regardless. Like, I think the Truman Show is dead on, except for that's happening to all of us. Like, we're all Truman. So, I don't know. Do you guys, like, do you want to keep going for a while? Or, because I think there's all sorts of places we could go with this.
I'm down for whatever you guys want.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I feel like when we were talking about the 90s music scene, we were hit some good points and then kind of just straight out. I mean, there was a question I had, and I don't remember it now, but it was about something you said, John, and it was about the 90s music, like early 90s. But Ryan, if you had anything, because we kind of like got off of that, but did you hear anything in that area where you wanted to keep going with your stuff?
So, I mean, like the big thing that hopefully it'll kind of spark back your 90s thing, because yeah, that's a really interesting time. That's when I was listening to like Metallica, and like S&M came out, Metallica S&M, where they worked with the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, I think it was. And dude, just blew my mind. So hopefully you'll think of that, because that was a good music era. But like with Rick Rubin, man, he's such an interesting character to me. One thing that I found wild about him is that he was huge into magic. Like his first love was magic when he was a kid. And then he started gravitating over towards music. And that to me just like screams of like wizard or like warlock or any of this stuff. If you believe in like energy manipulation, that's what that is, man. It's like taking someone's emotions, using sounds and vibrations and whatnot to, I don't know, evoke an emotion, or I don't know. It's just strange that he's in magic and then gets into music, and he's like the freaking best at it.
Ryan, you had a clip in one of your shows where he was talking to Serge when they were recording Is it Chop Suey?
Yeah.
Where he said, pick up a book, open it, point, something like that, right? Like open
Yeah,
it.
and I don't know how legit that is, but what a freaking cool story.
He told that story on Joe Rogan's podcast, so he's saying it's true that happened. I don't know either if it's legit, but what book was that? It sounds like a Bible verse almost. Father, why have you forsaken me?
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't say what book it was, but yeah, the story goes like, you know, they're Serge Tankian and System of a Down, they're struggling to, you know, come up with, you know, basically like it seems like a bridge or something in Chop Suey. And then, you know, they're stalling, they can't figure anything out. Rick Rubin says, hey, pick up any random book, open a page, and just stick your finger on a line in the book, and that's going to be this middle part of the song that we don't know. We're just going to throw that in there. And it's that, you know, the thing that Colby said, it's like the why have you forsaken me something, right? It's just like things like that are really interesting, man. And like, you know, it's a cool story no matter what, but it is kind of magical.
Yeah, and I don't think that it's such a stretch to go from magic to music, because I'm really interested in and fascinated by energetics. I think everything is, you know, there's balance to everything, and I think that you know, if you have a particular skill or knowledge, you can use it for good or you can use it for bad, and you know, frequencies and vibrations and the different types of frequencies and vibrations and how they affect people is very, very interesting. I mean, the whole topic of, you know, Rockefeller changing standard tuning, you know, from 432 to 440 just to create this. I mean, now there is a great example of he had some occulted knowledge. He knew what he was doing. You don't just randomly go, you know what I want to do today? I want to start a worldwide effort to change standard tuning. Yeah, it's like it was very, very well thought out. You know, to even what to change it to, and in a way that it's starting to get magic-like. The manipulation of frequencies, how frequencies manipulate physical matter, all of that. There's I don't know. I think there's it gets music and magic can get tangled up together.
Well, I think music is magic. I'll say that because it's. You can be in the worst fucking mood, drive to work, and you hear a song, and it just will send shivers and like tingles through your brain. It's just like something changes inside of you, and that's fucking magic to me. Like I mean, there's people out there who say they don't like music. They're not. They're very rare.
Those are NPCs.
They don't have an inner dialogue either, right?
It'd be like going, I don't like food.
Yeah.
Right.
Fuck eating.
You know what's interesting about the 440 hertz, right? Supposedly, and I haven't confirmed this myself, but 44 represents the doors to hell, not the gates to hell. But if you're going from 432 to 440, right, you just drop to 0. That's like how numerology works, and you have your 44 right there. So, and you see 44 a lot in the Bible, like whether it's through 12, 144, 44 by itself, 4. So yeah, and from what I understand too, 4 is actually a really demonic number on its own, kind of symbolizing Earth, like with the 4 seasons, the 4 directions, all these things like that. Like if you believe that we're in hell, which I don't, but some people are in that school of thought, or we're like at the highest level of hell here on Earth, then that kind of plays into it right there. But dude, that is a really interesting thing. And there is this new freaking treatment. Speaking of frequencies and sounds, there's this thing called the histotripsy that it's basically a cancer cure with sounds. Like it's a legit thing. The FDA is approving it. The hospitals are starting to buy the machines now. And so it kind of freaks you out a little bit, because it's like, if they're ready to give up that cancer cash cow that they have, what's coming out next? It's probably fake pandemics and vaccines and stuff. But yeah, man, sound is powerful. It's absolutely something very, very real and powerful.
There is a Rife, the Rife machine, and just Rife as a character. He I believe was it turn of the century ish, was doing work in that field of like finding scenarios that would happen with health. I really don't like I don't like the word disease, because I think a lot of what we call disease are they're created scenarios. Sure. But your body does get toxic, and it does get out of balance. And so he was studying the frequencies and the different vibrations and frequencies of a body in a particular state of imbalance. And then he was finding the exact opposite frequencies, because you can one frequency can cancel out another frequency, and you would hear nothing. And so his theory was, if whatever this pain in this body part is resonating at these frequencies, well, then you shoot it with the opposite frequencies, and it should in theory cancel out the issue. And there was a lot of there was a lot of progress being made in that direction. And I mean, if you get into like any of the old mud flood Tartarian, like any of that type of talk, a lot of the old structures, those big massive organs, the big pipe organs, there's a lot of compelling reason to believe that those weren't churches, those weren't places of worship, those were places of healing. And
we talk about that all the time. My friend Matt is huge into that stuff.
Ryan, I was just gonna say, John, myself, you, and Matt, that would be a hell of a fucking Monday Night Masturbators.
Dude, I know he wants people to come on. He wants new people, so you guys are absolutely welcome, man. 9 p.m. Eastern time on Monday, so we can set something up, dude, and talk about this stuff.
I'd love.
I'm right on the verge of taking a break, but if you want to get John in on that action, I'd like to join it at some point myself. But I was just sitting here as he started saying that. I was just like, oh, Matt needs to be here right now. About this kind of
he
shit.
Talks about that. Like, that's the reason that they're called organs. Like, it's not a coincidence. And then, the harmonics in some of these massive buildings, and the way that they were powered even is like all healing, to where how we do it now is all to throw our bodies off, man.
Oh, I mean, what's the leading cause of death worldwide, consistently year after year? Hospitals. And if you just think about a hospital, you are going into a place where, first of all, you're in an electromagnetic hellstorm. You're just EMF getting baked to death. You're under shitty light, shitty unnatural light. You're breathing shitty recycled air. If you are lucky enough to even have a window, it's got UV coating on it, so you're not getting any of the healthy UV. You're not getting natural sunlight, natural air. You're eating shitty food, shitty water. I'm pretty sure that hospitals don't deliver distilled water to their patients. It's probably tap water, filtered at best. Still got all that hydrofluoric silicic acid in it, at least. So I mean, just what we call a place of healing. I think your average normie would say, well, yeah, hospitals are places of healing. I don't know. I'd beg to differ. Like I said, shitty light, shitty food, shitty air, shitty water.
They're being commercialized too, man, where a lot of these hospitals, like you literally, like there's one here, I won't say the name of it, but my dad had open heart surgery recently, and he went to the good hospital here, which is Banner. It's a commercialized thing. But there's another one, man, where he says, like, you go there to die at this other hospital because his brother died there, sister-in-law died there, all like just by misdiagnosing these people that a lot of people love, man. Like, people love these people that go in there and then they get treated like a number. They try to cut costs, and they get paid no matter what, so they don't really give a damn. Like, get them in, get them out.
Like I said, I would highly recommend the only way you would ever catch my ass inside of a hospital would be for something structural. Like if I had my arm severed and I needed somebody a mechanic who could sew my arm back on. Yeah, but man, I'd want to be all over that. I'd want to know every goddamn thing that they're putting in me or want to put in me. I'd want to monitor that pretty fucking close, especially after the events of 2020, man. I find it mind-boggling that there are still so many people willing to walk into a hospital. We all witnessed the literal, like, they were monetizing, they were incentivizing death through monetization.
Yeah, man. I mean, it was terrifying for us as a family because my parents and my sister, they're not to the same level of skepticism as I am, but they are, like, none of us got vaccinated, thank God. And they're all questioning the government and questioning the morals of, like, these people in high places. But, my dad truly did get helped by the system in this situation. Like, he absolutely did. He feels fucking 20 years younger. He was out of breath constantly. I mean, like, they actually did a great job here. So I'm very critical of the medical system too, but sometimes it really does do its job.
Oh, no.
Well, hey,
Yeah,
I'll throw in on that. Just these last few days, this is a bit personal, but it's my fucking show, so I don't need to run any filters here. My 36-and-a-half-week pregnant baby mama fainted during dinner, and I called the ambulance. Because I called her midwife first, as she was, like, kind of almost to faint. She's like, if you can't get her down to the car, call the fucking ambulance. And I was just, like, having this, like, calling the ambulance, and I'm just like, oh, fuck, she's going to a hospital, and I was dreading it. They get there, 3 minutes flat. And from the very beginning, I'm like, all right, I just got to surrender. And they got her in. I followed them, and they're going like fucking 15 miles an hour in a back way. And my conspiracy brain starts kicking in. I'm like, are they going to harvest her fucking organs? What the fuck are they doing? Why aren't the lights on and they flying? But I waited in the fucking, with her daughter and the midwife. Our goal was to stay out of the hospital entirely through this whole fucking process. So this was a huge thing. And
yeah,
they don't know what the fuck's wrong with her. She came home yesterday, but nothing but good shit to say about everything. And I'm like looking at the hospital as an enemy through this entire process, and they just like never gave me a reason to validate that.
No, I don't get me wrong.
I'm on your side, John. This is an anomaly.
Yeah. There are really good, well-meaning people that are teachers in the government school system. There are good, well-meaning people that work for NASA. There are good, well-meaning people that work for Disney.
Are you sure about the NASA?
Yeah, I was going to say that's
one?
A little.
Well, no, I actually know a couple of people who work for NASA and buy it hook, line, and sinker. They honestly.
Good people.
It was something. It was somewhat of a life goal, and they're really proud.
Well, they're very good at compartmentalization. They almost need people like that. They're like,
well,
I just want to work for NASA.
Well, and that gets it's religious. This one person in particular that I'm thinking of is very much in that whole statist religion. I mean, and they believe. I mean, getting with NASA, that's literally religion. I mean, the Vatican, quite literally commissioned Copernicus to come up with the whole heliocentric model, So I mean that the whole thing about space is rooted in the Vatican trying to manipulate a particular view or opinion or outlook on something as vast as what is up there when we look up. And I mean, if nothing else, I mean that just shows right there that I mean that's not conspiratorial. Anyone can look up Copernicus and find out who he was. It's commissioned by the Vatican to come up with this model.
But when you look at like little kid programming, the things you see the most: cowboys and Indians, and I'm talking about boys. Cowboys and Indians, astronauts, dinosaurs. Those fucking three things are jammed down your throat like an unlubed dildo since you're fucking old enough to even conceptualize. And it never leaves us.
No.
I used to think dinosaurs were the shit. And you mentioned
you were right. They are shit.
I know they're fun for kids. You just gotta kind of look at it like a dragon almost, but dragons were probably real.
Well,
so
see, you could believe in that kind of shit when you're little, but there's adults believe this.
Yeah, which is wild.
I'm sorry, John. I don't know where you stand on dinosaurs.
Oh no! I will say, do you realize? And this is a whole other topic we could talk about forever. But do you realize there has been no complete dinosaur skeleton ever found anywhere?
Only in movies.
By anyone. And people be like, I went to the Smithsonian Institution and I saw it on display. And it's like, man, that's all plaster of Paris.
You can even read the fine print at most museums and see that this is a composite. That toe bone, we found that, and we don't know what it is, but this is what it looked like.
And if you get people thinking about it, it's like, do you know how many freaking shopping malls and skyscrapers and office buildings and stuff have been built? Do you know how deep we have dug all over the world just to build things? And how come you're never seeing like Larry's construction team finding an Allosaurus skeleton? It's always in these special places where they're paid through the university system or something, or these archaeological dig sites and that just happen to produce these things. But you never they never find a brontosaurus when they're building a new Walmart.
Right. That's 100% true, Dan. That's funny. Now, I mean, I remember that recently there was something in Wales where they supposedly dug something up, and it was just like a small dinosaur type thing. And it was when I was doing research on the royal family, some weird, unique, like reptilian creature they found skeleton of. Like, I don't know how legit that is, but I ran with it because it was really fun stuff to talk about.
That was Queen Lizard Beast.
Right. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just, and then you look at their whole connections. But you mentioned the Vatican, dude. That is one of my favorite topics. Do you think, and if so, like, to what extent, like, does the Vatican have influence over music?
I think if you, I would guess that you and I are probably, if you like the topic of the Vatican, then it's not too far of a stretch to it's the unholy trinity. You've got the Vatican, the District of Columbia, and then the Bank of London, the Crown. That whole thing, and you've got military, monetary, mind. And so I think the Vatican is got if call it Lucifer, call it Satan, call it Justin Bieber, whatever your name is for the Dark Lord. If whatever is controlling darkness has a home office, it's the fucking Vatican, and I think that lots, if not all, narratives originate there.
Sure. There's that great theory that Islam was created by the Vatican.
Oh, yeah. Oh, have you read the book of? Yeah.
No, I just love the theory because it's like controlled opposition at its finest. If that was true.
It's fantastic.
It's like a macro version of what's going on right now in Israel and Palestine because Hamas is fucking Israeli intelligence.
Right.
Yeah.
Openly. And people are still like justifying what's going on right now. It's like
and elected, democratically elected at that. But no. I think the Vatican is an enormous topic, and it is there's we could talk for hours about that.
I love their time machine that they supposedly have. I actually believe in the time machine. I think that's legit. You guys need to see, I've mentioned this to my audience many times, you guys both ought to watch Resurrected. You'd love that movie if you're into the Vatican and like the weird things that they do. Great film. Check that out.
Resurrected. Okay. Is it a documentary or is it a fictional?
It's what I call a mockumentary, like a fake. It's meant to look like
Found
a documentary.
footage.
Yeah, found footage, exactly. But dude, it's so good. It's basically the premise is that the Vatican figures out how to resurrect people, and they use that to convert everyone of all kinds of different religions to Catholicism. And if they have like bad, like shitty search history, like they look at a lot of porn or lots of nasty stuff online, then they can't be resurrected. Right. So it's just like this weird like conspiracy where the Vatican's trying to kind of cover up some crimes and some weird shit that happens with some of the resurrected people. The FBI has a RP unit, a resurrected persons unit. And it's wild, dude. It's such a good movie, man. It's
that does sound awesome.
Yeah. You guys would both enjoy it. If you're
do you know there's like streams for free?
Yeah, it's on Tubi.
Oh, I'll watch it.
There you go.
Tubi's the shit. But yeah, man, just all these different organizations, having their toes in these kinds of things is one of my favorite things to look into.
Yeah, I always love you watch cable news, doesn't matter the channel or flavor, and it's historically always been very anti-Christian, anti-religion, that religion is mocked and all that. But man, when they have to change out a fucking pope, it's 24/7. The little shot of the smoke, waiting for the smoke color to change. Do we have a new pope yet? And it's like even in my younger days when I watched a because I'm one of the only people in my family that isn't Catholic, and I just remember just being a kid going, why are we so fixated on knowing the exact moment of when a new pope is elected? Why
it's like a gender reveal party.
Yeah, why would CNN care? I can understand where like maybe if you were Catholic you might care, but why is it it was like chasing OJ's Bronco or something. It was like 24-hour coverage of this one thing. It's just always raised a red flag to me. But yeah, no, the Vatican is definitely at the center of, if not all, the things that hug at our little hearts and lives.
Yep. Gentlemen, we have anything to close out on? I mean, I've got time, but if you have any like last thoughts you want to share before we call it a night. John, I'll let you go first because I'll probably ask you more questions before it's over. But yeah, you want to like wrap this up in a bow for yourself?
Yeah, man. I think I think that it's always important when we're having these type of conversations to just state out there, none of us know. I mean, at the end of the day, what does anyone really know about anything? You could get really zen about that, but you can see patterns, and you can see when things keep happening the same way, and these patterns and these procedures and stuff, they just keep happening. And so when looking at anything that draws an audience, whether it's music, whether it's movies, whether it's print, podcasts, anything that can draw an audience, I think it's always healthy to come to the table with a healthy, skeptical outlook on where that information might be originating from, who's financing it, why can some people, I think Ice Cube comes to mind, why can some people talk about things when other people can't, and they seem to flourish when other people are chastised for the very same thing. So there's a lot of people don't want to hear it, but I think we're all best served if we just make our starting point somewhere close to leave it on the table that everything that you possibly might know is wrong. Be open to being wrong, because that's when you are programmed, and we are all programmed. We've all been programmed from birth to some extent. And when you're programmed, it's all about being robotic and being, and being obedient and being, consistent and all. And so when you break that programming, it's uncomfortable, and a lot of people get very uncomfortable when you start fucking with their programming, and it could be just something simple. I mean, there are still people losing their shit over the moon landing, or and
the moon is a big trigger.
And again, we should be able to talk about such things without losing your mind. And I hope, I'm a big fan of bringing back good old fashioned peer pressure, and I'd love to see more people start pushing back when people use the word conspiracy, because it's what conspiracy or conspiracy theorist has turned out to mean is anybody that isn't following the mainstream narrative. Anybody, right. and if narratives were if narratives were the dining experience, the restaurant industry, the mainstream news is like the fast food of all of that. It's like if we're talking narratives, if we're talking information, if we're talking whatever version of that is, it's usually the, if we're talking beer, mainstream beer is usually fast food garbage beer, for the most part. If we're talking cookies,
we get your language. Both Ryan and I are beer guys like yourself.
Yeah. So just I don't know, start approaching things in that way, going, is this the fast food version of whatever the topic matter might be, and a lot of times it is. And if it's coming from sources like Fox or CNN or Alex Jones or whatever, BBC or whatever, that's fast food, man, and it's probably going to be garbage that's not good for you,
and it might make you shit your pants if you're really unlucky.
There you go.
A Mexican pizza is good every now and then, though, from Taco Bell. My favorite fast food item of all time. But yeah, dude, I think that's really well said, John.
Yeah, to Taco Bell's credit, they never use the word food on their menu.
They don't.
They don't claim to be food.
Craving a lot, and that's probably more close to the truth.
Yeah, go try it next time you're in Taco Bell. Try and find the word food anywhere. Yeah. I got a lot of respect for Taco Bell. I think they've created an honest product. They're not claiming to be anything other than other than what they are. I think it was Chris Porter, the comedian, who said, Taco Bell's like, hey man, we're putting shit in Doritos. Come down here now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and they just have the same 7 or 8 ingredients, just mix and match it in different ways. And
well, that's Mexican food in general.
Kind of, yeah, I guess. But
pick your configuration and step to the left, please.
You said a lot there, John, like the fact that people lose their shit over the moon landing. I got into a brutal argument at a Christmas party with a family member because we were talking about COVID. She's a nurse, ICU nurse, high-level nurse, like really, out of Phoenix. Done some wild stuff and went to New York at the height of the pandemic. So she thought she was really brave by doing that.
Front line.
Right. So, and I give them shit about that. And, it does take guts, man. If you believe that this is really the real narrative and then you're going there to do it, it takes some balls. Like, I don't agree with what the military does, but I think a lot of those men, when they sign up, I think it's brave, But, we're talking about COVID and I'm saying the whole thing's bullshit and all this stuff. And she's like, I've seen it, all this stuff. And we end up, kind of just ignoring it, moving on. And her husband was like, do you believe in all kinds of conspiracies? And I was like, oh yeah, for sure. Like a lot of different stuff. And he was like, where do you stand on the moon landing? And I was like, well, it's actually interesting if you look into it. And he was like, I can't. And he literally just walked away.
He just went to his line in the sand to see if you were worthy of a conversation.
Yeah. And it's like, he didn't even let me talk about Stanley Kubrick and how he got this lens from freaking NASA and, 2001, all this stuff. But, people don't want to hear some of this shit.
I'm sure it's just coincidence.
I'm sure it is. I agree. But yeah, man, John, you and I use a lot of the same language, man. And Colby, thank you for introducing us, and it was really cool to meet you too, man.
Absolutely, right back at you, man. This is I could have these conversations every single day, and actually I try to. So anytime you guys want to do this again, and you talked about bringing it, was it Matt you mentioned?
Yeah.
Let's make it happen.
Yeah, we got to try and get Colby in there too, man. What the hell are you taking a break for?
Well, my kid's going to be born here in the next month, so
that's a good reason to take
I'm going to set the
though.
mic down for a couple months. But if Matt could schedule a Monday like between now and the second week of November, which is not a lot of weeks, but if he schedules ahead and that's not doable, that's fine. But if he could do it, I'm down.
I'll text him right now, dude. I'm sure that maybe we can even do it this coming Monday if you guys are down.
I'd absolutely make time for it.
We'll see. I mean, Colby, you got my phone number.
Yes, I'm pretty sure I could squeeze in Monday too, if that's possible. He doesn't have anybody already it's fucking Thursday.
I know. I'll see. I mean, he's been. A lot of us, man, have been kind of slowing down with the content that we're putting out and like not being as organized, and like people used to plan months ahead for their shows, and now like that's why this was so cool to do, Cole, because like I don't have any show. I have no time, dude. Like right now, I have zero time. So it's cool to like get something like this together. That's actually, I think, a great conversation that we had too, and I can put it out for people to hear and hopefully drive some traffic to your show. And
hell yeah, dude, that'd be great.
We'll see, man. But yeah, this was freaking cool.
Yeah. If you want to text Matt, I'll just put my bow on it for tonight. These are the conversations I love. I mean, when John and I tried to do this the first time, and my power went out. You remember that, John?
Yeah.
That's everybody's always talking about, like, dude, as soon as I get
damn Russians.
Yeah, fuckers. But the power actually went out in Medford, Oregon during a snowstorm, believe it or not, and I just doxed myself. But we were just cooking with gas, and then all of a sudden, and I was like, oh, dude, no. And then when we got together again, it was like timing was perfect. You were sleep deprived. You had just driven like 16 hours straight. And we just fucking rolled with it. And then these conversations we have, they just get me thinking, like, you talk about heliocentric, like I'm almost to the point where I think it's like infinite lands. We're a little tiny bubble ruled by reptilians. I know that's a joke, but like David Icke's the only other guy that you've ever talked about to me that you said was always himself. And that was you, wasn't it?
No, I've been in Ike's presence 3 times now. And and I was expecting something different. I was expecting more of an Alex Jones experience, and Ike was 100% legit. And I've since been on his son Gareth's show twice, and he's a good guy too. No, Ike is. I've never seen anybody that could. First time I saw him was at the Anarchapulco conference down in Acapulco, and I think it was Anarchapulco 3 or 4. But Ike I've never seen anyone off the cuff just talk. He talked for like over 4 hours, and just, I mean, it was, and I mean, not just talking, but I mean, like glued to you. You were just glued to him, and I mean, that man's got some. That man's got some stories to tell, and it was not lost on me that he's a very gracious storyteller too. Like he never came off as an asshole to me or anything, and he wasn't declarative. He wasn't saying I know this or whatever. He was saying this has been my experience. This is what I know. It was always just like a lot of us do, encourage people to. You pick up the ball and run with it, because I can tell you something all day long. I may be able to plant some seeds in your head, but you got to take those seeds and they got to grow to the point where it's like, okay, yeah, you're not going to, a lot of people that do this kind of work, I think, and I don't think you guys are like this at all, but a lot of people who are in alternative media, I think it's their goal to change people's minds. And I don't think you can change people's minds. I don't think, I just don't think you can. I think you can give people seeds of ideas and sparks of inspiration and all, but they got to take it and it's got to make sense to them. And then when it does, then they know it or they believe it. And then then they become another one of us, and they start talking to other people about this type of stuff, and it just branches out from there. But no, I thought Ike was very real, surprisingly real.
Would you say he's the Ice Cube of conspiracy theorists?
I don't know. I don't know. I do know. Unlike Ice Cube, who has lived a pretty charmed life, I know Ike's been fucked with heavily.
Yeah, and I was just making a joke because you like because you like Ice Cube. I'd be fucking grateful if Ice Cube turned out to be legit, because I have a soft spot for gangster rap. Just because I grew up in fucking southern Idaho with 0 black people, and we just drove around and smoked pot in the back of a Chevy Blazer thumping rap, and it was like that was my introduction to rap. But I don't know, guys. We got to do this again. It sounds like a Monday Night Masturbators might be in the works. I'm going to end this recording. Good night, conspiracy players. Thank you for joining us. And gentlemen, we'll say our goodbyes off.